Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Batwoman. Great episode, great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we had that situation at the beginning where Jacob was going up against that dude that later just kind of referred to as Titan. Kate shows up to help, but she's not in the bat suit and everything. I was like, yeah, you'd probably be helpful not to be in the bat suit, considering the fact that your dad declared war on you last episode. So, but obviously they couldn't take him down, and then it turns into a very interesting situation because he couldn't take it down, maybe Batwoman can. So all the while that's happening, there's a whole situation of Luke presents a piece of kryptonite because apparently Bruce had one. It's like, hey, he was keeping it for a friend, and Kate's like, Kate tights big ass on his chest, and Luke's like, how the hell did you know that? She's like, lucky guess, because it's like, well, she met Earth 99 Bruce, so knows they had that relationship in that regard. Plus, it's very reflective of her relationship with Kara, like literally the same situation of Kara. Well, she didn't necessarily give you the kryptonite, she just told you to hold on to it. But he's like, don't worry, I destroyed this and there'll be nothing left that could hurt you. You'll be invincible. And Kate's just kind of like, He's like, well, not unless there's something I'm supposed to know. She's like, no, it's good. And so he's like, all right. So he's going about proceeding to destroy the kryptonite. We learn a little bit more about Titan, which is interesting because the moment they mention Titan, I'm like, I'm sure maybe there's something other DC character this might be pulling from, but it immediately makes me think of Titan from God. Well, the Titans themselves, but also from Arkham Asylum, the venom, the Bane venom that Joker was using on Arkham to buff turn a lot of people into monstrous venom, not venom, the monstrous Banes. So I thought that was kind of where they were. I was like, oh, that was interesting. That's immediately where my mind went with the whole Titan situation. But nevertheless, it's actually kind of sad because Mary kind of knows the backstory of Titan, kind of who he was. Tim, learning that basically he was kind of this he's this all-star when it came to football. He was really good until one moment he just he got so into the game because he was super aggressive, gladiator that he snapped the referee's neck in front of everybody. We learned later on it wasn't just a snap. Apparently he just ripped his damn spine out. Apparently that's the way his brother kind of puts it later on. So Kate's like, all right, I'm gonna have to go the whole Batwoman thing, but Mary's like, no, our dad said he would declare war on you. She's like, yeah, but you don't know him like I do. And she's like, yeah, because he's my dad too. She's like, no, it's the fact of the matter is, even when he says no or whatever, even when he makes a stance about something, she feels like, hey, I can persuade him, change his mind. And then Mary's listing a whole bunch of times of dad said no, you did something anyway, he put you in a position where you'd get arrested. So, but for Kate, she's like, if I can change his mind about Batwoman, she's like, even maybe then I can actually come to him and tell him hey, I'm reveal herself to be Batwoman if she can get him on Batwoman's side. This episode also answered a question I was curious about too, is it all vigilantes or is it just the Bats in particular? He references specifically the vigilantes of Gotham, but I guess it just reigns everywhere. Oh, screw all vigilantes. That's why I'm you didn't hear him talk about it, but I'm do you feel the same way about Supergirl or the Flash or Black Lightning? The Black Lightning kicks it, counts as a vigilante. I'm sure probably felt the same way about Green Arrow and everything, but that's what I'm curious about. The whole Oliver being worshipped the way he is must piss you the hell off then, if that's the case. But he was so he's super aggro about it. He's I'm taking Batwoman down, and anyone that's even in league with her will go down to it. He's spewing pure vitriol. I'm holy shit. I'm what the I get it, you were never a big fan of Batwoman, but holy shit, this is a whole new level of hate. It's and even the news reporter was yeah, we've never seen this much hate between someone in law enforcement versus a bat since Batman and was it Commissioner Loeb. I was oh yeah, that's constantly an issue in itself. But I'm just holy shit. I was I wasn't expecting that. It was interesting because I don't know, especially because for Kate, she's trying to do her best, trying to stop Titan. Sadly, like Titan got revenge on because his brother testified against. Because he, like, Kate was like, "Oh, your brother's a psychopath," but he's like, "No, my brother was actually a good person. He'd actually make sure that kids, he'd watch over them at the bus stop and everything." So he was a very caring dude, but it's like this game turned him into the monster he was. Because basically, it turns out like it's a whole kind of like situation of like some people were so wrapped up in the game. It's like, oh, he's such a good player. Let's not reveal his real neural scans because it shows that his brain's badly messed up. The way Mary explains it is basically the part of his brain that's almost like not there. It's a part of the brain that tells you that, registers pain. So that's why like when Kate threw a battering at him, he just like it was nothing. I was like, oh, he literally doesn't feel any pain, and so. And he's pretty strong because, I'm sure all the working out, he's, football player and also like the steroids. So he messes Kate up pretty badly. So, but it's just for her, it's just like she wanted to try, because for her, it's like, I can't just sit on the sidelines. I have to do something. We're talking about, stopping this guy before he does other things. Because at first, like I said, it seemed like it was random, but then they start piecing together all the people that he killed. The dude on the train was connected to like what happened to him, and so was the coach who happened to quit just before the scam broke. But also, it's like his brother testified against him, so it's like, you abandoned me, you left me. Basically, you left me in kind of a prison, and I'm going to leave you in one your own, because it seems like he basically probably like cut his brother's spine, and so he's probably paralyzed. So obviously, any dreams of being, this star football player is just completely gone now. So kind of shattering his brother's world, like his world was shattered. So Mary comes up with an idea of like, hey, I know a way that can help with this situation. She's like, you're not going to like it. Mary lights up the bat signal, which Jacob was like, that's a big no-no. Whole bunch of crows show up, guns drawn and everything. And Mary's like, it's me, Dad. And obviously it's like, Batwoman wants to talk to you. For him, he's immediately like, oh, you suck so much. How dare you drag an innocent daughter into this? She could have been guns pointed at her. It's like, why are you going in guns blazing? That's on you. That's not on her. But for him, it's probably like, I gave you fair warning. The fact is, you went low. You dragged in someone. You made this personal, and he's not willing to listen. He even smashing the phone. But Mary's like, it wasn't her. I actually went to her. This was actually my idea. For him, it's like, how could you? What? He's like, it doesn't make any sense. Like for Mary, it's just like, even she's like, it doesn't make any sense why you're being as pig-headed as you are. I mean, it's like, this is literally Gotham's hero. Like, everyone in the city has her back, but you. Basically, it's like, why does Jacob have such a stick up his ass about this whole situation? Because she's like, you're trying to go up against the one symbol of hope this city has. Like, you want to claim, like, this, if I don't believe in you, I'm your own daughter, and I don't believe in the crows like I do Batwoman. So if me as your own daughter doesn't believe in you like that, how can you expect a city full of strangers to do that? And also, Batwoman is doing what she's doing. Is she asking for any money? No. Are you, Daddy? Yes. So it's like, it is like, even I was like, ooh, get him married, because it's like, once again, he's being an asshole in this episode. It's like, holy crap. And it's like, oh, someone that can't even show their face, and Batwoman drops down and it's like, okay, I can't show you my face, but together we can take him down. And so he's like, fine, how do we do this? Obviously, like, Sophie, when they came back and was like, wait, where's everybody? They're working with Batwoman. He's like, what? He was literally talking about like 2 hours ago about hunting her down. He wanted her head on a pike, and it's like, why is this? She's like, yeah, something's up. Julia tried to like warn Kate, but Kate was so, because even Mary was just like, because she kept thinking like, Kate like thinks she can get through to her dad, but it's like, sadly, but it's like for Kate, it's like she looked at her dad in the eyes, so she believes him, she trusts him. Obviously the power goes out, Titan goes on killing crows, and obviously Kate gets in his way and fights him, but kind of reminds us, like, this isn't who you are. You were basically made into this. Like, the fact is, remember the good person you are, because he was like, I didn't want to be this. She's like, I know. And the crows end up killing him. But Kate's like, you didn't have to do that. I mean, that's the thing. You didn't even bother trying to arrest him. And I think that's the thing. You're scarier than a vigilante, because you're a guy. You're you're a vigilante with a chip on your shoulder. It's like, but him, it's like, oh, I'm a vigilante with a badge. That's kind of the difference between you and Batwoman in this moment. And then the fact is he's turning the guns on him, and she's like, what are you doing? It's like, we had to deal, there was a truce and everything, and he starts firing, and I'm like, dude, and it's not like, oh, everyone else fired, he didn't. It's like, no, he pow, pow, kept pulling the trigger. I'm like, if that bat suit wasn't bulletproof, your dad would have killed you. And I was like, he would have felt like the biggest piece of shit in the world, because the fact of the matter is, he would have been, like, technically in another sense, if you want to break it down and think about it on a very, like, heartbreaking sense, he would have been responsible for another daughter situation. It's like, I guess for him, for so long, like, he kept giving Alice chances over and over again, and now his resentment towards Alice, he's now, like, deferring all that towards Batwoman, because she's an easy target. She's right here in front of you. Alice isn't in front of you anymore. Because I think for him, it's like, if I had just done something sooner, because it's because of everything that Alice did, blackmailing, Kate and him over the whole Cartwright situation. So it's all of that. But it's still just like, for him to act the way he did, Sophie showing up and being like, I wouldn't have signed off on that. And he's like, but the fact of the matter is, it's like, because of Batwoman, the woman that killed my wife is, out there. And it's like, yes, let's not forget who this woman is. This woman that you're so pissed about, we're not even just talking about Kate as Batwoman. We're talking about the woman that killed your wife. Let's not forget that's your daughter who was traumatized and turned to a monster. Like, I get it. Like, but it's just like, it's like you're so angry that you're like turning your rage towards. And I'm so curious to see what ends up happening, because the city backs Batwoman. So I'm so curious to see in the future, like, what's going to happen. Like, you do this, the city will I guarantee you the city will riot, because no one's going to have your back, because it's like, you don't know what floodgates you're going to be opening them if you remove Batwoman from the equation. Gotham wasn't the best place in the 3 years without a bat. Hell, Alice came into town anyway. That was prior to Kate picking up the, wearing the suit, having the mantle and everything. And it's like, but obviously the hardest thing, and I think this is an interesting element to the episode, is the theme of betrayal. Because in this case of, like, Kate, she felt like, oh, as long as I had that suit on, nothing could hurt me. The fact of the matter is, her father, the fact is he was willing to kill her in that instance. It's like, he hates me. She's like, and Mary's like, no. The fact is he hates Batwoman. But for Kate, it's like, that's one and the same. Like, the fact of the matter is, and it's so interesting because she's in a very similar situation that obviously Kara was in for not too long ago. For a while, because remember, Lena was pissed at Supergirl, but hey, I still had Kara, as my best friend. Obviously, that turned super sideways the moment she found out Kara was actually Supergirl. But I'm curious, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, what's going to happen? Because obviously, Jacobs made it clear at the end, it's like, oh, we can't kill her with guns. Find me a weapon that does. I was like, oh, that's going to get nasty. Because, like, the way things played out last episode, I was like, somehow he's going to get his handles on a kryptonite bullet and end up killing Kate. And the moment he finds Kate, he's going to be like, what? You going? But it's not going to be like. Sadly, it's not going to get resolved until it's too late. Because I think in the grand scheme of things, for Alice, the greatest, like, because she talked about basically destroying her dad, like bringing pain upon him. Like, no, the best way she could do that is by tricking him into killing Kate. It's like, oh, here's an opportunity. Oh, here's a weapon to kill Batwoman. Oh, you killed Batwoman? Yeah, it's your other daughter. Like, that way, it's a twofold revenge. She kills her sister and, Batwoman, but also breaks her father of like, oh, like, I went mad. Let's see what happens what this tragedy will do to you. That's kind of my immediate thought about that. We'll kind of have to see on that front. But, because, that it's frustrating because it's like, because even Mary is like, she looked like she believed him too. So it's not just on Kate. She's like, I believed him too. And so, how do you deal with something like that when he has made it absolutely clear that he will kill you, that there's no, like, so it's like, it's going to make doing her whole Batwoman thing even harder. There's a whole situation with Luke trying to destroy Kryptonite, and that brought up some interesting stuff in this, because I was like, I'd assume Kryptonite can be destroyed, but I was like, I'm sure I've seen instances of it. I'm just not thinking about it. There's been instances of it being destroyed it's definitely been destroyed, like, on Supergirl and stuff like that. But I'm like, I was trying to think, like, has there what could and couldn't destroy kryptonite? Because he was trying I think acids and stuff like that. I was like, huh, I didn't know that, because I don't remember anything ever really going out of its way to like. I'm sure magic honestly could destroy kryptonite like easily, but also it seems like later on, because Mary actually kind of gave him an inspiration, because she's like, oh, what if you used a hammer? He's like, just use a hammer to smash this, okay? But then he used like a press. And Mary's like, yeah, and who gave you the idea? He's like, yeah, your crazy hammer idea is the same thing. She's like, yeah, just as long as you give me credit, basically, you know? But then, like, Luke is like, yeah, the one thing that can kill you is going. It's like, yeah, no, it's not. I've actually got some kryptonite here. It's like, he's like, wait, how? So that makes my mind start wondering, because it's like, so, you know, which is interesting, because let's not forget, that's a crisis thing. Because Superman didn't exist on this earth in, prior to Crisis. I mean, because, like, that's why meeting when Barry and Oliver meet Supergirl, and when literally every character met her during the Heroes versus Aliens crossover, they're like, holy shit, this lady's crazy powerful. Holy shit, we've never met anything like her before. So there's never been any supes beforehand, but now because of Crisis, that means Bruce and Superman have interacted. In particular, Tyler Hoechlin's Superman has interacted with, we'll get to it soon enough, but it's like, that's so interesting. So, but I guess in Luke's mind, it's like, oh, like, you weren't around then, so you wouldn't know about that. So, like, does he not know about the whole Justice League thing of, like, she's literally part of the Justice League with two supers, Superman and Supergirl. But it's like, maybe he doesn't know that she's tight-knit with them enough to know that that's their weakness or whatever. I mean, I'm going to assume Luke would know that that is their weakness. He's like, oh, holding on to it for a friend, but he knows that's Kryptonians' weaknesses, right? I don't know. Like, that's the thing of, like, Kate told him about Crisis, but she probably didn't tell him, like, every minute detail. Obviously, she didn't tell him about the kryptonite. She's like, I didn't say anything before because it's like, I didn't actually think you'd be able to destroy it, but now you can. He's like, all right, let me see that. But for her, it's like, no, because Kara trusted me to keep this, because it's meant to be a thing of, like, because I get, for one, it's what it symbolizes. The fact is you're able to keep it and never having to use it against her. It's just kind of, you know, once again, have the courage to not use it. I thought about this, I didn't bring this up during last week's review, but it wasn't until like afterwards, because I was just randomly sitting around. I was like, wait, doesn't Kate have a sliver of kryptonite? So like I left a comment saying that on last week's review, because it completely slipped my mind. I was like, right, because we never saw beyond Kara giving it to her, like whatever Kate did. I was like, I'm assuming she kept it through Crisis. She sure as hell did. So, but for her, she wants to talk to Kara first, which is so interesting, because that's the whole thing about like, oh, this is the last kryptonite on Earth. It's like, oh, you must not have seen last week's episode of Supergirl when like Romacon got like a shit ton of kryptonite. But that's also because that's like, well, it's Lex. So I guess it must just not be public. And like, I mean, to be fair, it's government knowledge that she's weak. Well, Kryptonians in general are weak to kryptonite, because you don't want literally every bad guy in the world knowing like their major weakness like that. So it makes sense why not everyone would know. So I guess that would also explain why Luke would be like, oh, of course Kate wouldn't know that, you know? It's interesting when you break it down like that. But I'm curious to see what ends up happening in that. I mean, once again, it's like, that's probably the only piece of kryptonite in Gotham. But also that depends on, because obviously I haven't watched the Supergirl season finale right now, so I'm assuming, you know, even if it doesn't get resolved in the season finale, I'm assuming all that kryptonite's going to end up getting destroyed some shape or form, you know. I mean, Romacon currently has it, so it's not like anyone else is going to be able to necessarily just get their hands on it, you know, and very accessibly, you know, so. But regardless, with all that, there's also the whole situation with, Alice and Mouse. Mouse is like, okay, we need to get out of here. There's literally an app now that makes it so that anyone, if they see us, can report to the, you know, crows. We need to get out of town before they kill us. But for Alice, she's so dead set on her revenge. It's like, you want me to move on with you and everything, right? But you want me to be happy, right? How can I do that when my past is binding me? So, you know, so it kind of has no choice. Then you have Tommy showing up, being like, because he wants a different face, and Alice is willing to help him out in the grand scheme of things. Even Mouse like, wait, what? She's like, he helped us find a means to kill Batwoman, so let's help him out. Obviously, she gets the materials needed to make him a new face. She goes to visit like a dude who studies rocks. And it's like, she's asking about kryptonite. He's like, oh, you mean this? Basically, because he thinks she's stupid. It's like, oh, you're saying kryptonite, but you must mean this. And he's like, oh, we're not. That's why I'm like, it's not public knowledge. And of course, once again, of course it wouldn't be public knowledge, but it's still crazy to be like, people don't know what kryptonite is? Even in a post-crisis world, it's like, yeah, why would Superman or Supergirl, let alone the government, the DEO in particular, let the word out that like, oh yeah, Superman and Supergirl are weak to kryptonite? I mean, you would think Lex would just because, but it's like, oh, that's more so his... I mean, well, he's letting the cat out of the bag with the whole Leviathan. Once again, I'm going on tangents and stuff like that. But it's interesting to think about. Like, I guess I just never really gave it too much thought until I'm like, oh, this is, yeah, you wouldn't make that public knowledge. That'd be super low key. Why would you make it public that you're letting your enemies know which weaknesses? Regardless, so the dude was like, oh yeah, I studied in Iraq, but I gave it back to Lucius Fox. So, and it's like, well, you're not, I can't let anyone know I was talking to you. Bashes his head in. And then Mouse does an interesting thing where he's like, obviously we want to go to that place and everything, you know, kind of like their haven, their happy place. But he's like, to get there, like, if you won't come with me, then I'll leave you. And she's like, oh, she almost like was a little condescending, like, oh, you'll be fine. And he was like, actually, I will be. You think I won't be fine without you? I survived Arkham for 5 years when you didn't visit me, and you can see like the little hurt in her eyes of like, oh yeah, I didn't, did I? But for him, it's like, I was able to survive that. He's like, I'm not the one I'm really worried about because you are the one. But because she's like, no, don't leave. It's like, because sadly, she needs him more than he needs her, because without Mouse, she literally has nothing, because like everything else is destroyed. Like there's no other family. So she's like, okay, like, you know, we have to burn our past and everything. So she burns the Alice in Wonderland book because it's a chain bound to the past. Everything that Cartwright, everything that him and his mother did to them, like they were trying to burn that past of like kind of basically letting it go so they can move on. Obviously for Mouse, it's like, hey, if we didn't go through that, I wouldn't want anyone else to go through that. But because I went through that, I'm glad that we went through it together. I wouldn't have been able to get through it with anyone else. I was like, oh, because I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, but then the way Alice was talking, I was like, okay, you're going to try and say like, but I need to kill Batwoman, and he was going to leave. No, she poisoned him. I didn't see that coming. I was like, holy shit. I mean, to be fair, it makes sense, because like when you're so obsessed with something, like you'd rather kill it so that it never leaves your side. And that was her explanation of like, because as long as I kill you, that means I never have to be away from you, because I couldn't stand the fact is if you walked away from me. It's like, you're literally killing him just so that he will stay with you, because at least it's like, oh, we'll be reunited, you know, in that wonderful place that we, you know, we're going to find. Because for her, it's like, you can never understand the pain of like why my hatred runs so deep, because you've never been utterly betrayed like by someone until this very moment. So this is the only instance of him ever suffering a betrayal like she did, like how it rocks you to your core. So that's why I think it's interesting, the parallels of like Kate dealing with betrayal in her own way, and now obviously Alice kind of, you know, her whole talks about it, and obviously her betraying Mouse like that. When it was all said and done, it's like, oh, I'm going to give Tommy a face. I was like, are you going to give him Mouse's face? I was like, that's messed up. Are you going to pretend like Mouse is still, like, how are you going to, but it's like, no, because I think that'd be very besmirching of Mouse, so she would never do that. But it's like, he's like, oh, you gave me this face. I'm like, whose face is that? And it's like, Bruce Wayne. I was like, what? I've seen that actor in so many goddamn things. I don't know his name, but I've seen him in plenty of stuff. A lot of, regardless, I have to look into it later, but I was like, holy shit. Batwoman just cast its Bruce Wayne, which is interesting. Just because immediately, because your brain was like, how are they going to handle the Bruce Wayne situation? Because, like, obviously during Crisis, it was Kevin Conroy on Earth 99. But then I was like, are they going to, like, is that supposed to be like, that's why I'm like, does time work the same on different Earths? It doesn't. You know, so that's why I was like, is Bruce going to be the same age? Because that was like a question like Roxy had. It's like, oh, so is that what, because she was like, Bruce? Like, she wasn't 100% sure, but it's like, she recognized him enough to be Bruce, but it's like, is that because that's what he looks like, you know, on Earth 1, but it's like, no, that's why she says it like that, because this is an older Bruce. Like, wait, this looks a little like a cousin, just older, they just don't tackle it. But it's like, it makes sense, because we have two Barry Allens. We have Barry Allen that, you know, played by Grant Gustin, and then there's the Barry Allen from Earth 90 that was played by John Wesley Shipp, you know, the actor who played his dad, and Jay Garrett from Earth 3. So those are two different Flashes and different ages and everything. So it still kind of fits. Once again, we're talking multiverse and everything like that. It's why I get caught up in it, but it's still interesting. I'm like, hey, it's kind of interesting too. Once again, parallels. Because Supergirl didn't cast it Superman until season 2, because like the entire first season is like a shadowy figure, like face blurred, or you just see his boots. not blurred, but just hidden, and you just see his boots and his cape or something like that. But it's not until season 2, so it's interesting for them to set that up of like Tommy having Bruce's face, kind of setting up some stuff where it's like, that must mean they have plans to bring Bruce into the fold, like maybe making like small appearances, maybe like how they do in Titans. That's another goddamn example. Let's not forget that's part of the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and that Bruce from Titans looks different from Bruce that's been set up in Batwoman. The same and different from Kevin Conroy's. So it's like it's like we're dealing with a multiverse here. You don't have to get too caught up in it. Yeah, there's some doppelgangers. Other times they're different type of doppelgangers. It's a whole thing, So it's just interesting. Getting Tommy to play Bruce, which is so interesting considering his obsession with Bruce. It's like, oh, this is the role I was meant to play, which is so interesting too and ironic. You literally kill the perfect copycat, and now you're kind of giving an amateur this opportunity to play that role so you can get close to get the kryptonite. So that's going to be interesting. Because it's also going to bring up a lot of questions of like, oh, Bruce, where you been? Why'd you come back now? And stuff like that. That's going to be interesting. And what his appearance in Gotham, what that's going to mean in the grand scheme of things, I'm curious. It's also interesting too, considering like, once again, I'm not that well versed in Hush, but for Hush to be the one pretending to be Batman, but also like obviously Tommy, being Hush, it's just layers upon layers of interesting stuff that I'm curious to see like where that goes in the grand scheme of things. I didn't talk about it, but there's also that situation with Julia and Sophie, because it turns out I keep blanking on her name, the lady that basically Julia was like, oh yeah, I betrayed her, now she's coming after me. It turns out there were photos left for her of it, like, oh yeah, like it's not just me, it's everyone in my radius, including you. Batwoman has been renewed for a second season, so I'm really excited to see where all this ends up taking us into a second season, because obviously, much like everything else, this is not the season finale. I'm assuming they want it, because I'm assuming it was supposed to be like a 22, 23 episode season, much like all the other CW Arrowverse shows, obviously with some exceptions like Legends of Black Lightning, but I'm curious, like, obviously, whatever the story was going to be for the next potential 2 or 3 episodes, as well as whatever story, that would have left us off with, that would have been like the main thing going into season 2. So I think this, but interestingly enough, it does put this in a very interesting spot of like, this is a really interesting place to accidentally end up, especially with this whole thing of like, oh yeah, your dad's wanting to kill you. Your sister wants to kill you. It's like, the only people you have left that you can turn to in this situation, it's like, well, things are kind of complicated with Julia because the whole Sophie thing, but you have Luke and Mary, so, and obviously like no more secrets between us going forward. So like I said, I'm really, really excited to see what, ends up going down in season 2. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.